Hello, and on this week's episode, a bunch of tools can walk through walls, Chloe takes a dive, and Clark has a Messiah complex, maybe? This episode is Kinetic. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Smallville Chronicles. I'm Lou Gonzalez. With me, as always, is my co-host, Alan Muir.
Isn't me, or did one of the tools look like Chad Kroger from Nickelback?
Oh, definitely. The one with, the bleachy hair?
Him.
Yeah. The other guy, the main guy, we were just talking about before we were recording, Kevin Smith, he looked like a young version of the Joe's, from The Flash, Joe's partner who dies in the pilot.
Oh, Chire?
Yeah, I can't remember the detective's name. The one that gets killed by the first weather wizard?
Yeah, Chire.
Yeah. He also did, this face thing that reminded me of Amanda Sante in Judge Dredd. He was just so big and over the top in this episode.
Yeah, and just want to let the listeners know this is a Whitney-centric episode.
Yes, what we were all asking for.
That's how I feel about the Whitney character. Nothing against Eric Johnson. He's a good actor, but they gave him and Pete nothing.
Yeah, Pete gets a little bit more once he learns Clark's secret, but Whitney's kind of this weird rival character that he's just there to be the rival for Lana. Because if he's not there, there's no reason for Clark and Lana not to be together.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you just have the normal love triangle as opposed to the love pentagram that happens in the show, which probably was one of the tattoos that these idiots wore. This was definitely one of the most early 2000s episodes ever. It was absolutely ridiculous. The characters,
the music.
Oh my god, the music. I think the first song was by POD, and I was like, oh, I forgot that they existed. And I was like, oh yeah, this was a band of this time, and now this is in my head again that they existed thanks to Smallville. Well, I guess we could get started with the episode. Basically, we start off where Clark is the cameraman, and Chloe is interviewing Lex, and Clark, I guess, somehow forgot to hit record. Lex gets a call from his dad, so he leaves the room. Chloe disappears on Clark and goes exploring, so Clark leaves. All of a sudden, there are three dudes. I think we first see them in their, red Camaro.
Yeah.
And basically they're getting all hyped up like a game day speech. And then the one guy in the backseat pops in a prosthetic arm. They do a very, specific job.
Wait, does he pop it? Does he take it off, or?
No, he puts it on.
I could have because when...
Maybe he takes it off, because I know every time we see him, that arm is tucked in his pocket.
Also, when they do the first robbery, he's saying, "Come on, man! I only have one arm."
Yeah. Well, I guess even if he still had the prosthetic arm, he'd still only have one arm. But yeah, they just make it very visible. They zoom in on the fact that he has a fake arm. Whether or not he's taking it off or putting it on is kind of not necessary, or it doesn't matter. But they just make that a big thing. And I was like, oh, are they setting up the one-armed man kind of angle? Because I didn't remember this. All I remembered was the tattoos from this episode. They don't really do anything with it until Clark X-ray visions later on. And basically they go in, they pop into the Luthor house, the mansion, then we see them, two of them, they're staring at the bookcase, and it reveals, oh, he has inside information because he's hooking up with a maid or something.
Yeah, no, a housekeeper.
There's
a difference.
And then, yeah, they stare at the wall, and our camera goes through the wall to the other side where we see two of them, and then we see the third guy pass through.
Yeah, we get a nice first-person view of everything that's in between the walls, or basically in between from the vault or from the office through all the way to the vault.
Yeah, that aspect was cool. The effect of them actually going through things was the worst green screen, where it was oh, they obviously had a green wall that they had to slit through, and they would just walk through it, and then they would just superimpose that action onto the scene. They usually just look so bad.
Yeah, I have two. I have two. How do I put this? Examples of, or two comparisons to movies that one's a movie, one's obviously The Flash.
Well, yeah, we see these powers in the X-Men movies with Shadowcat.
Yeah. But we only see it really mainly in Days of Future Past.
No, she uses them in,
oh wait, no, yeah, in...
the third X-Men 3.
Against Juggernaut.
When she's running yeah.
But we got... My first comparison is The Flash, obviously, because they're phasing through. And the second is, like, we've said before that the effects on this and The Flash are very similar. At least the running effect.
Yeah, the super speeding, like, away and into shots, yeah. It's the same, like, cannon, like, air cannon thing. I think they literally use the exact same special effects.
Them going in and coming out of solid matter looks way too much like the Doctor Who TV movie from 1996.
Well, it's closer. It's probably closer in time than this episode is to The Flash now. Because they had 96, that'd only be like 6 years, 5 years?
5.5, 6.
Yeah, and The Flash would be like 17 years, or probably like 15 years.
Yeah.
From like season 1 of Flash to this episode, so like it makes sense that would be closer. It just like it looks so like it's almost
cheesy.
It looks too effortless in a weird way.
It's sort of like they don't care.
Yeah. And again, this is like another weird. This is like kind of it's like a half filler episode because there's a lot of. It's one of the things in this first season where there's so many like throwaway bad guy of the weeks, but there's so much like overarching themes and things going on around it. Like the whole stuff with like one of the side plots with Lana and the Monarch, Lex with his dad, Whitney's whole family situation. Like, all those things are kind of, like, this episode is important to, but the actual main plot is the most throwaway, boring kind of thing.
Yeah, and this is an episode where Clark doesn't really get to use his powers that much.
Yeah, he just uses X-ray vision, and that's kind of it.
Well, he uses super speed, his speed at the end.
Oh, yes, yeah, he had to save Whitney. But I guess we can get back. So, basically, they start stealing stuff. Clark and Chloe show back up. The guys pop in. 2-on-1 against Clark, and he's getting the kryptonite hands.
The arthritis
Yeah.
veins.
Chloe's attacked by the one-armed man, which, and actually now thinking, I think you're right that he took the arm off, because when she's fighting him...
You just see like, you see his sleeve, that's all.
Yeah, it's like an empty sleeve. And
she either kicks him or punches him, and he throws her... Doesn't he throw her out of, against the window, but she goes through?
Yeah, he kind of, shoved, one arm, kind of chest-throat shoves her, and she just, kind of, takes, 5 steps back, and just goes, right through the window, and then she catches herself. The two guys, I think they punch Clark in the gut.
Yeah, and
then they all leave.
And Chloe is screaming for Clark to come and save her. He doesn't make it in time. So
no, I was actually I was surprised by it, and I was like, oh, that's kind of awesome that he doesn't. And she gets real messed up.
They do a similar type of getting this whole thing of her falling in, I think, season 6 or 7 in the Daily Planet, where she falls down the space in between in the stairwell.
Oh, in the middle?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Clark just catches her perfectly.
Well, that's one thing the show is good at, is doing callbacks to earlier stuff. The big part that we skimmed over was the fact that while they were robbing, the one-armed guy finds a floppy disk. Now, not the big floppy.
From a micro disk.
No, it was I don't remember what they were called. It was still a floppy, but it's the smaller one. Were they called micro disks? Because there was so much weird technology that was around for a year or two at that point. Because there was other little injectable kind of floppy things at certain times, but this was the small hard plastic one, not the actual floppy thing. I remember using them in elementary school to I don't know, do typing class with or some garbage. But it did feel a little weird that there would even be a floppy disk. Why wouldn't it be a CD? Because it's not that long ago.
It's 2002.
Yeah, it's 2002. Why is there a floppy disk? It makes no sense. But when we get to C, so Chloe ends up in the hospital. She's unconscious. She has a broken arm and a concussion.
And her face is kind of messed up.
Yeah, her whole left side of her face is jacked up. Lex tells Clark that this isn't the first time these guys have done it. They've robbed a bunch of people over the last 6 months. They tried to rob Smallville Savings and Loan, but didn't get anything, and no one could figure out what's going on. Clark is really upset about the whole Chloe situation. And Lex kind of tells Clark that, he's gonna do stuff with this. And he's also not filed for anything missing.
Also, one of the key things that will be a part of this episode we forgot to mention, as they're nearing the end of stealing everything, one of them is screaming, or not screaming. He's yelling, "We have to get out. It's time's almost up."
Yes, yeah, they're very good with saying time management. 1 minute left, we gotta go.
And this whole thing Kevin Smith, or Kevin, however it's pronounced, mentions that they need fresh blood.
Yes. I got really confused there for a second when you said Kevin Smith, but yeah. I was like, oh, what did he have to do with this? But next thing we see is Clark is punching some wood.
Yes,
his parents,
as he put it, he's trying to make himself useful.
Yeah. His parents come in, we get speeches from them, and they basically tell him it's not his fault and he can't save everyone. And Martha encourages him to go and try to figure out what happened. Clark goes to the bank with Pete and uses his x-ray vision to see that there is an arm in the safe door, which part of me was thinking, the way that the arm was in there, how would the safe door still be able to work? Because it looked like it was caught in the gears.
Yeah, and also, is it the scene where Pete says, "Oh, here we go again, the Clark Kent 1,000-mile stare"? Yes,
and I actually really like that somebody brought it up. It's he's literally just standing there staring at something really hard, and it would be very off-putting.
Yeah, he kind of looked like there was a Terminator-esque.
Oh yeah, the scanning.
Yeah.
And then right after this is where we get our first shot of Whitney. Lana walks out of the flower shop. She sees Whitney. Whitney's being all weird and emo.
As he's been for the past few episodes that he's been in.
Basically says he has to go back to the store. Nell is cleaning up the movie theater, and Lana starts talking to her, and Nell reveals that Lex is the one who is buying he's just buying the town. I don't think he's buying the flower shop. I don't remember. I know she was selling both, but I don't remember if she actually ends up selling both to Lex. Because I know she moves at some point, because they kind of write her off.
They write her off. She ends up living with Chloe.
Okay, so I guess that happened. I guess she does sell the flower shop as well. But that really doesn't play into anything, except that they write her off.
Yeah.
So Lana tries to figure out if she can talk to Lex and get him to not tear it down, since it's the place where her parents met that we learned an episode or two ago. We cut to the gang's loft, which is total 2001 Angelina Jolie hackers-esque with flashing lights and 15 TV screens stacked on top of each other. One of them is playing some weird CGI video game cut video. It reminded me of Tenchu. It was really bad early PS2, PS1 graphics. But it was definitely something that was Japanese. But he had 7 TVs stacked up. I never understood that. If they're all showing different things, why that's a cool thing. But it was definitely a set piece that everybody used in this time period.
Yeah, because you gotta hack the man.
Yeah, except these guys are all dumb jocks. Except for the one-armed guy seems to be able to work a computer.
Yeah, because I think it was Clark because Clark basically takes over Chloe's role for this episode.
Yep, she even makes the comment about Clark Kent, investigative journalist.
He as he says to I think Lex that he raided the torch and found
the yearbook.
The yearbook from 1996 of Smith and Chad Kroger. So it seems like it started out with them, and they needed a computer guy, a tech guy.
Yep. But basically, so the names of the guys are Scott's the main guy. That's Kevin Smith, and he thinks that Lex hasn't called the cops because he doesn't care about the stuff because he's so rich. Derek is the one-armed guy. He's the one that finds the disc, and he looks at it and he figures out that Lex has been spying on Lionel on Luthor Corp and has some sort of a back door.
Yeah.
So they surmise that he's stealing from them, but that's obviously not what's happening.
They pretty much blackmail him over it.
Yep. Yeah, they decide to blackmail Lex, and this is where we get something that took me by such a surprise when I heard this phrase be used in this show. Can you guess what it is?
No. I want to say it's you're messing with the wrong man.
Oh no, it was like something that had to do with the disc. What was on it? The plans.
Oh, the particle accelerator.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I was like, wait. He's particle accelerator. I was like, oh man, I have to. That has to get mentioned in the next After Dark episode.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, another thing that Smallville was there first with.
Yeah, because Star Labs isn't. I don't think it's a thing in the show. Maybe a thing in the season 11 comics.
Yeah, well, Star Labs didn't really become a thing in the comics until actually around this time. I think they weren't really Cadmus was more, which is why it plays more in the show. Cadmus was more what I guess Star Labs is in Flash-ish. They were more of the comic book super secret. It was them.
Checkmate.
Checkmate's the government thing, which again also plays into this. Because I think Star Labs and Argus are later things that they added, in the 2000s-ish era.
Argus was New 52.
Yeah, so I was so they're definitely Argus is kind of what they turned Checkmate into, and the same thing. I think they kind of turned Cadmus into Star Labs, because they don't really use Cadmus in anything anymore. They never talk about it. Yeah, the last thing I remember them using it was Young Justice.
Yeah, with Connell.
Yeah. We also get to see in this show.
Yeah, and it's actually not just a terrible portrayal.
No, I think he's in 3 episodes or 2 episodes.
Well, he's an arc. He has a arc with Tess in season 10.
Yeah.
Where they recreate one of the creepiest, just hands down creepiest scenes from earlier in I think one of the first 2 or 3 seasons with Bald Lex, or not Bald Lex, kid/teenager Lex.
Oh, I don't remember it because we haven't gotten to it yet, right?
Yeah, this is around the time when he starts losing his sanity.
Oh, yeah, I do not, my memories of some of these episodes, I remember, one element. This episode, all I remembered was the tattoos.
The stuff with Lex was, he was found in the rain, or in a corner with a thing of sheets, thinking it was his dead brother, Julian.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Okay, now I remember that. Because I remember the whole plot when he's, with the whole brother thing. Yeah. And then there's, a fake brother and all this stuff, and then Lionel's blind, but he's not really blind.
Yeah, this show does so much.
Yeah, when Glover becomes, a main, when he becomes, a regular, this show takes, a huge turn.
In a good way.
Yeah. Alright, let's get back. So basically, the gang gives Lex a weird cell phone. Looks like a house phone.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Hey, you picked up on that too. It definitely looks like a house phone, like a cordless house phone.
It also looks like a 90s, a prototype 90s, cell phone was supposed to look. Or for you wrestling fans, the phone that Paul Heyman used to hit people with when he was managing.
Oh, the big brick?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's smaller than that, but yeah, it's kind of similar. And next we go to the Fordman's department store, which is Whitney's family store. And Whitney's got his Best Buy blue shirt on, and Clark is picking up a microwave, and Whitney's like, oh, go pick it up at the back counter. And then for some reason, Whitney divulges his deepest inner feelings to Clark about him losing his scholarship. And then we see, what did I say his name was? Scott and, what were you calling the other dude?
Chad Kroger.
Yeah, Scott and Chad Kroger. Chad Kroger wants some sneakers. And Scott reveals to Whitney that, yeah, he was had 15 different schools lined up, and then he got sacked and blew out his knee.
Had to have 4 operations.
So Whitney sees them as kind of brethren, and they invite him to a party. And then I think this is where we actually go to the party, where we get our 1-second scene cameo. I don't know if you remember that Evangeline Lilly, the Wasp.
Yeah.
She's the girl that has the lime slices that Kevin Smith kind of kisses or whatever. I think he's talking to Whitney about you can have I thought my life was over, but there's so much more to do, and kind of
Yeah, like football and everything.
Yeah. So then they do the thing where they basically bully him into a back room and give him a tattoo. And we see them draw 2 lines, and obviously the tattoo ink is super green. And then they're in some sort of tunnel, and they basically throw Whitney in front of a truck, and he just, like...
Ghosts.
He ghosts really badly, CGI, like, green screen through it. So again, like, anytime there's green screen involved this early in the series, it's just not good. I hope it gets better, because it's really bad right now.
It's, it's actually, it says a lot when the Arrowverse Hawkman or when the Smallville-verse Hawkman is better than the Arrowverse Hawkman.
Oh, I like the character designs for the Legends Hawk people. They're not as classic, like the Smallville one is like the classic, like, orange head, suspender, like, cross suspenders. Like, he's definitely the, like, Super Friends, like, Golden Age, like, Justice Society version. Yeah. And then, like, the Hawk people in Legends are...
The reincarnate, they're the same, basically the same thing.
I think they look more like the Justice League cartoon version.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, they took a lot of, inspiration from that design. But that's like 5 or 6 seasons from now, isn't it?
It is.
It's like 6 or 7?
8.
8, okay, because I know it's like well after they're out of high school.
It's during the Kandorian clone story arc.
Oh yes, where we get to see Jor-El.
Jor-El, Zod.
And that's Zod 1 or Zod 2?
It's the clone of Zod.
So it's
Zod 2.
Okay,
but in season
don't we get like 3 Zods in the show?
We get the Lex Zod, we get the clone Zod, and we get the merged of the two.
Yeah, so like
the merge of the clone Zod with the actual Zod's mind or consciousness in the Phantom Zone.
Yeah, because it's the Phantom Zone, like, Zod is the Lex Zod, and then the other one is like a clone from like an earlier time, so he's not the bad guy that the other Zod became.
But then...
He turns bad.
Yeah.
Alright, so then...
Seriously, I cannot wait till we get to, like, seasons 8, 9, and 10.
Oh my god, that's... Well, we're actually, like, doing a pretty good clip here, so we'll walk... I think we could maybe get, like, 2 seasons a year, unless we somehow, like, speed this up, but it's gonna take a while. But yeah, this show does so much kooky crap.
Hey, 3 more seasons till we get to Bart Allen.
Oh my god. Alright, so back to this episode. Clark visits Chloe again, who's now awake. Pete is there. He hooked her up with the internet. Chloe Googled some garbage and figured out that, remembered the tattoo thing, and Googled some stuff to figure out that they're kind of moving super fast, and, like, they're molecules, and that's how they're able to walk through stuff. Clark goes back to the store asking about the guy, and he sees that Whitney has a tattoo. Whitney's also wearing sunglasses inside, which is definitely not cool.
Yes.
It's
a really douchebag look.
It's super cliche that he's wearing them because he's hungover. Again, this guy is supposed to be a senior in high school. And
it's not surprising because if he's a senior in high school.
Yeah, and it's
expected.
Yeah, and he's close to graduating, though. But, like, working at his family store inside with sunglasses is still a bit much.
Yeah, but in this scene, or when he was spilling his guts to Clark, like, Clark says, you're gonna leave this place and probably get farther than anyone else.
The first time. Because that's when he reveals that he lost his scholarship and that he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and we get a line we get him saying that Clark is going to take over Jonathan, or from Jonathan.
Yeah,
and Clark says, I don't think that's the life I want or plan on having.
And it connects to the earlier time when he was talking to Jonathan and Martha, because he's like, I wish I could just leave this town and be as far away from these meteors as I could.
Yeah.
But this gets us to one of our B-plots. Again, so Lana's talking to Lex about renovating the old theater, and he basically tells her, like, do you want me to renovate this place just to make, like, for your nostalgia? And kind of leaves her. This is when Whitney goes to hang out with his new buddies. Clark follows them. They go to meet Lex. Lex didn't bring the money. They start choking him out. Clark breaks in, gets hit in the head with a meat hook, the blunt side at least, and they escape. And they tell Lex, you better bring it next time or else. So, As they're leaving, though, Clark yells out Whitney, and Whitney turns around, and Whitney's also hesitant the whole time. So after they leave, Clark and Lex have a talk about the whole situation, and he basically tells him that he was following Whitney, and we also cut to Whitney with the gang, and them kind of yelling at him, and he's like, I didn't want to kill anybody.
Yeah, and then Scott kind of vouches for him.
Oh yeah, he says like, oh, it's just like first game, like big game jitters or something like that.
Yeah, and then after that, I think we get a scene with him, with Whitney and Lana, where he's terrified, like legit terrified out of his mind.
Yes, and we also get, I think they kind of hint at, and the stuff that Chloe said, that like, the tattoos are burning up their metabolism. So yeah, when Whitney shows up, he scares the crap out of Lana, and then he's doing his best, like, heroin, shakiness, sweating,
yeah, because his hair is all sweaty.
His hair is sweaty, his face is sweaty, like, he looks like he's got, like, giant, like, sullen eyes, and like that, like, his face, like, he looks disheveled.
He looks disheveled. He looks like he's near death.
Yeah, he looks like he's going through the worst DTs ever.
Yeah.
I guess this is when Clark and Pete meet with Chloe, and she does the Googling, is right after this. And we learn about stuff. But Clark, I guess Lana calls Clark. Clark and Whitney decide to go and infiltrate and try to find the disc, that Clark had learned about from Lex earlier.
Well, we get a line from Lex when Clark and him are talking. Lex says they're blackmailing me, and he says to Clark, so do you think, basically asks him if he has changed his mind about Lex, and that he sees him the way if he sees him the way Jonathan sees him.
Yes. And he basically just explains that, like, oh, it's just stuff, like, there's nothing illegal, it's just stuff I don't want public.
Yeah, and we also find out that from Whitney that after they plan on doing another meetup with Lex, and that they're gonna kill him, take the money, and kill Whitney.
Yep.
Because he's Lex. Weak. Lex knows
that it's Whitney,
and he could leverage stuff in court.
Yep. So this is where we're getting kind of like to the conclusion of this episode. So Whitney and Clark get into the loft. Nobody's there. Whitney starts looking around for the disc. Clark, X-ray visions, finds it. The guy shows up. Clark crushes the disc. I think they punch Clark again.
Yeah, he can't catch a break.
Yeah, and then Nickelback dude and Kevin Smith take Whitney to a junkyard and leave Clark with the one-armed guy. While he's guarding him, Lex shows up and stun guns the one-armed guy. Lex calls the police, but while that's going on, Clark rushes off. Kevin Smith, or his character Scott, is holding...
He has a gun to Whitney's head.
Yep, and he's holding him, and they're going to drop a car, and then he's just going to phase through it, and Whitney's not. Whitney notices that the tattoo fades, but the Nickelback dude hits the button. Clark super speeds, tackles Whitney, and the car drops on Kevin Smith, and the cops show up.
Kevin Smith is dead. Like,
yep.
If that played out the way it should have played out, there'd be a lot more blood.
Yes, there would be a big wet spot and pieces. Actually, it depends. Like,
I mean, the reason they didn't do this because it's a show for teenagers, and they probably wouldn't want to stir up a controversy.
Like, there would be blood, but, like, he wouldn't explode, like, in a Cronenbergian way. Like, he wouldn't, like...
he
wouldn't be, like, all over the walls, but he would definitely... There'd be blood. But they also don't really, like... We just kind of see the top of the car, so...
Yeah, we don't see Scott or anything.
Yeah, they just kind of show it to show that he did not phase through it. So he's dead, and the other two were arrested.
Yeah, and Lex says, I'll keep your secret if you keep mine. And he makes... he sort of makes a threat against them.
Yeah, he says, like, if you don't abide by this, you'll see that you're not the only ones that can reach through walls.
Yeah, because obviously Lex knows people in prison.
Yep. And then our last part of this episode is kind of like our setup, like furthering the plot of everything, which is that Lana convinces Lex to let Nell/her run the Talon as kind of a historic teenage meetup spot. And Lana's all happy, and Chloe's out of the hospital. And she also reveals that, like, everything has been covered up. Lex also, when the cops had shown up, told Clark that he told them the truth, saying that Whitney and Clark went there to save the day, but did not tell them about the walking through walls because they can only handle so much truth.
Yeah, he says Clark and the football kid, or the football jock, figured out everything.
Yeah, and that's where we leave this episode with with Lex leaves Lana in the Talon.
Yeah, and says that this could be the beginning of a great partnership.
Yep, which gets totally weird soonish.
Oh my god.
Actually, I think it's like their last year of high school when it gets weird. Because it's after the Native American caves.
The Kawachi caves, yeah.
Yeah, it's after that, because that's how he does the time travel. Isn't it? Or is it after he finds the actual fortress?
The fortress is at the end of season 4, beginning of season 5.
I think their relationship, like Lex Lana, happens after he finds the fortress. Because he travels back in time after he's at the fortress. Because the Kawachi Caves, the only thing it does is when it comes to the Lana thing, is when it takes over Clark, and, like, you get Kryptonian Clark for, like, an episode.
Yeah, and he
flies.
He breaks into Lex's jet.
Yeah, rips open the door and, like, speeds through it. It's an hilarious
He doesn't speed
scene.
through it. He, this is after Lex is having, health issues. I forgot which one specifically, but there's a breach. Things start flying out of the plane. He loses control of the gem, or whatever it is, and Clark grabs it and flies out.
Alright, so I guess we can go over, overall I would say this episode was okay. It furthered along, like, the Lex Lionel story a slight bit.
Can I just say something? If that Scott Kroger and the One-Armed Man, if they had done what they said what they threatened to do, which was upload the contents of the disc, I think Lionel would have been proud rather than mad.
Yeah, he would still, like, punish Lex, but he would have, like, found it admirable.
Because that's something that Lionel would do.
Yep. No, it definitely, like, you're right, because that's, like, how their relationship works. Alright, but overall, like, I found this episode to be okay. It was mostly filler. Like, it was just barely not a filler episode. Like, there's at least some kind of stuff that happens that works for the whole story. It's kind of like their way of this is like the beginning of writing Whitney off the show.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna spoil what happens, but he does end up leaving Smallville, and they sort of take something out of the page of, I don't know if they did it first or Angel did it first. Like, I'm blanking on both the actors' names.
Like the guy who played Angel?
Not David Boreanaz. The Irish guy.
I didn't really watch Angel, so I don't know.
Well, the guy who played him passed away, and they, like, in between, like, he got fired from the show because he was doing drugs, and he died of an OD. And they killed the character off in the show too. Oh yeah, they've done that in a bunch of shows. That actually happened to the kid in this show in Smallville that plays Cyborg. He was in Rizzoli and Isles, and he died, and they killed him off in the show too. They were actually filming when he died. He actually committed suicide. But yeah, they were like filming, and he didn't show up to set, so they had to write that in. Yeah. The Deacon Frost sort of guy on Angel, who isn't a vampire, but I just call him Deacon Frost because he sort of acts like that character. He was also on the Librarians as the muscle. He disguised himself as the Irish guy, and something similar happened in Smallville, or on Smallville. So I'll wait, because this whole thing happens in season 2. Okay. All I'll say is it's someone who everyone thinks is dead. That's all.
All right. So let's go through, like, what was your favorite...
My MVP?
Yeah, your MVP and LVP of this episode.
My MVP was Michael Rosenbaum.
Because he's Michael Rosenbaum and he's goddamn awesome in the show.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say when it's ever him, Schneider, or Glover. It's just because they're all, like, they're so good at those three characters.
My least valuable player was Eric Johnson.
Is that...
Whitney.
Oh, Whitney? Okay. I was gonna say it was, Kevin Smith. Like, he was just...
He was hamming it up.
That's not even, like, that's not enough of a way to, like, he was acting the shit out of this to, like, he was on a 15.
Well, this was way before he started it on Stargate SG-1 and Atlantis.
Yeah, and it was just the characters and the acting was, like, kind of, it's what really dated this episode. Well, that and the floppy disk, but, like, like, ignoring, like, the styles of everything, like, what they were doing was just so bad. Like I said, it was, like, very hackers, just, like, because I guessed if they graduated in 96, like, they're, like, in their 30s? It's just, everything about them was just so, like, their team was just so goofy.
No, it's, like, 6 years later for them.
Okay, so they'd be, like, in their mid-20s?
Early to mid-20s.
Oh, they look terrible.
Yeah, they look really old for people, supposedly.
Especially Nickelback guy. He looked like he was almost 40.
But we can't really say anything considering the people who are in school.
Yeah. Oh, well, absolutely.
Honestly, Allison Mack and Sam Jones.
That's exactly, I was going to say, yeah, Chloe and Pete look like they could be freshmen. Lana sometimes, depending on how she dresses.
But never Clark.
No, Clark's too goddamn big.
And also, I'm pretty sure Smallville was his first big show, but I don't know if you've seen him on, I think it was Kimmel, or it was some talk show, like late night talk show.
Oh, during this time? No.
No, this was years later when it was during Smallville. He, his first role actually was on the spiritual successor to Freaks and Geeks called Undeclared.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he played the show with Jay Baruchel, Charlie Hunnam, where he's actually using his British accent. He only had, I think, one line or two lines where he says "Thanks, man," or "I'll think about it, man." So.
Yeah, I'm looking through his stuff because I know he was a model.
Yeah.
Yeah, I literally, I had the same people for my MVP and LVP. Did you have, like, a favorite, moment or line for this episode?
Yeah, it was actually Chloe's line at the end when she was talking about, because I can sympathize.
Oh, with, like, being in the hospital and stuff?
Yeah, because when I had my surgeries, I was in there, I think, 15 days combined. I was there 5 days over 3 periods of time, in June, July, and August.
Oh, you did, like, 3 5-day stints?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about I did 5 days as well when I was in the hospital.
I didn't, the food was horrible. But it was basically Chloe saying that the terrible food, no cable. I smell an expose.
Yeah, that was a good line. My favorite was actually the Lex talking to Clark. And he says, "Clark, you can't save the world. All you'll end up with is a Messiah complex and a lot of enemies."
Yeah.
But again, it's because it's Rosenbaum. Yeah, it's Rosenbaum, and anytime where they do...
like Clark and Lex stuff.
I guess we can talk about next week's episode. So, next week's episode is Zero, which we get into the background of the Club Zero incident that involved Lex
getting stabbed.
Yes, so we can take a listen to the trailer now. Alright, so yeah, it is good to get to an episode that actually isn't filler.
Yeah, and it's got Parker Lewis.
Yes, this is like an interesting episode. We get like a bunch of stuff in this episode. I'm trying to look here, because there's like somebody's picture who I recognized.
Corin Nemec.
Who is it?
Coronemec, he's the reason why Lex, he was at the center of the Club Zero incident.
Alright. And, sorry, I blanked out right there for a second. But yeah, it's gonna be glad to get through this. We only have, so the next episode will be episode 14. So we're
almost getting close to Stray, which is my favorite episode this season.
Yeah, so we only have 7 more episodes after this one. So this will be the 2/3 point.
I didn't think, time has been going faster ever since we started this podcast.
Yep. Oh my god, I forgot. It's another episode I just noticed that we have to bring up on the Phantom Zone that's coming up, which is Drone, which is an episode about a woman that uses robotic bees or uses bees to attack people.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Alright, so I guess we can do our plugs.
Listen to the Phantom Zone, the Ant-Man and the Wasp review with Connor, Arlen, John Seiler, and Lou.
Yep, kind of the two of us.
Yeah, I had technical difficulties. I had to drop out early. But it's already up on YouTube. Should be up soon on iTunes.
I think it came out just now, so you can definitely be able to check that out.
What else?
Do you have any more Video Game Hour stuff coming out?
No. Hopefully it will stay dead this time, or else I will have to shoot in the head.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were doing more of those counter argument episodes anymore.
Oh, you mean the difference of opinion?
Yeah.
It was more of that was a test to see how it would work.
Okay, I think it's an interesting idea. So if you want to do more, I would be happy to do it with any of the games that I've played. But I'm not sure. I haven't been playing much lately. But basically, yeah, check out the Phantom Zone on the Facebook group.
Join.
Join. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. And
we can cause chaos because Hunter isn't here right now. He's away in Florida.
Well, he might be back by the time this comes out.
Yeah.
I know it's the time travel factor. But we're closely approaching the end of the season, so yeah, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, comment. Yeah, and then Phantom Zone should be doing Luke Cage season, or the 3rd episode, of season 2, and the Incredibles episode should be coming out soon. Because I know the Fantastic Four one dropped, but I don't remember if the Incredible ones did. I don't think so. But you can follow me at Lou A. Gonzalez on Twitter and Instagram. I'm in the Phantom Zone Facebook group.
You can follow me on Twitter at The Alan Muir. You can follow me on Instagram at ComicsBoy. And to quote Hunter, or the new cover photo for the Phantom Zone, don't follow me anywhere, guys.
Alright, so we will catch you on the next episode. I'm Lou Gonzalez.
I'm Alan Muir, and this podcast stands for truth, justice, and the American way.